I'm here with Cedric Coward. Cedric, welcome to the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, Cedric, you've had a pretty, incredible journey. So, zero-star recruit, you take the Division III route, all conference there, end up going to Eastern Washington, develop into one of the best players in that conference. You move up to Washington State, have terrific, six-game stretch to start the season.
Yeah.
Season-ending injury.
Yeah.
This week, you committed to Duke. You're also in the draft waters, so kind of a lot going on, right? You've had a pretty unique journey. So if you kind of had to break down your journey to someone that maybe has never, heard about your background, like what stands out the most to you about your journey?
It's unique. I can say that. It's very unique. There's a lot of things that in my journey seemed impossible, but I've made possible, which is, uh, predicating to like the work ethic and then just my faith and believing in God and the support I've had from like my family and the people that are in my inner circle. Yeah, I don't know. You obviously have like some guys that are D3 success stories in the league now, but I don't think you've had a guy go from D3 to then mid major to then a not sort of mid major. Washington State is the high and mid major mix, like right in between there, and then now to a dream of most college, athletes and going to Duke, or college basketball athletes and going to Duke, as well as having a legit shot at the NBA. I think it's just for me one of those things where I cherish the journey, cherish the process, and that's the only way I can never forget where I came from. Because, like you said, I was that kid that came out late bloomer, um, didn't have any thought of where I would be now. You know what I mean? Like it's just a pipe dream, I guess is the best way you can say it. But seeing this picture and this graphic like really shows the amount of resiliency and the amount of just faith you got to have in yourself to prove that you can do it.
Definitely. You talk about, faith, you talk about resilience, talk about belief. For you, to start the season as strong as you did this year, you had in 6 games this year, 18 points a game, 7 rebounds, career high in assists at that level, 2 blocks a game, shot 40% from three. It's kind of part of your story, right? It's like there's always been adversity. So to only get to play 6 games, have a season in injury.
It's funny because I could have started the season out stronger. I had the two games, Idaho and Iowa, didn't play that well, scoring the ball perhaps, but it's okay. And I'm not just about making shots. But for me, I'm honestly just blessed for the time I did have to play at Washington State. It was my last go around with my coaches, and they mean a lot to me. And they were super supportive, obviously, before I got there, while I was there, and then even after the injury, because the injury really was devastating for me because this was the first time ever like I've had to deal with something of that magnitude, and I couldn't play basketball. Like, and I know I couldn't play basketball for the rest of the season. One thing my coach, Coach Riley, said to me was, man, because it's hard to be positive when like the negative stuff happens, but at the same time, like the real ones can do it. And he told me, he said, "Hey, man, one thing is this is just a bump in the road. Meanwhile, you went through walls in the road." I guess the best way you can say it. Like if you compare my shoulder injury to like me at D3, I don't think that's comparable. It's a lot harder to move from D3 to where I was at that point than it is to just get over a shoulder injury if you have the mindset to do it. And I had the people around me to also help, with that, and everybody was going to say it's going to be okay, which is great. And I know myself, I knew I was going to get back stronger than ever, bounce back better than ever. And honestly, the shoulder injury was a blessing in disguise. It allowed me to see the game a different way, see the development in my own body a different way. I always tell people it allowed me to lift heavy. I can say that, especially on my lower body, because now I'm not playing all these high minute games. I don't have to necessarily save my legs. So I just focused on growing them, and they've grown tremendously. I've gotten more explosive, more bouncy, and been able to have more endurance in that area, as well as many other areas as well.
Gotcha. When we spoke last summer, we walked all the way through your journey. I'll link it above, people that are curious to learn. But I said, Cedric, what was that recruitment process like out of high school?
No
And you
offers.
said, no calls.
No
but
call.
then but then you stopped yourself and you said, but it wasn't like I was really putting in the work
Yeah.
to be like, why aren't they calling?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
to go through the adversity this year with the injury, and then actually now going through the first time you've kind of had that interest from these, any school in the book from West Coast to East Coast. Once you kind of put your name in the portal,
Yeah.
was after you and contacting you and your team. So what
Mhm.
was it like to demand that type of interest after kind of like you said, you kind of had to fight your way up from every single level?
I mean, it was cool. I was like talking to my mom about it, and it was crazy because she, she's been there since the very beginning, and told me she was just, man, think about it. You went from having no calls to all the calls, and I was like, and it's a cool thing. It's definitely cool because it shows the amount of work I put in. It shows the level I got myself to. Now, that's not the only level I'm gonna get myself to. There's levels to keep going and keep going and keep going and end up being the best. But at the same time, to demand that type of attention, to demand those type of calls was great. And to really talk to the people that you've been, and get recruited by the schools that you've seen since you were young, and then to even talk to the people that are decision makers in the league, that's huge. Like these are becoming normal conversations for me. And I couldn't believe my wildest dreams. Like I'd be talking to presidents and GMs and head coaches for highly touted programs, like just as normal conversations. Um, but at the same time, that's also predicated to the work. Like when I got hurt, that didn't mean stop putting in the work. Do something else. You know what I mean? For me, took extra film, extra time in the weight room, definitely taking care of my body more. Um, I think I did a good job of that, but just really bulletproofing my body, both in the treatment room and recovery, and then also in the weight room. And then just trying to help my teammates as any way as possible. Be that guy to when things aren't going good, be that positive light when things are going good, shine that light the brightest, um, as well as hold each other accountable. You know what I mean? Like I think it's easy to lead by example, uh, but it's also easy to just open your mouth and talk. You know what I mean? So for me, when I wasn't able to lead by example, my voice had to be the loudest.
Wherever you play next season, whether it's with the NBA logo or it's the the most prestigious program in college basketball that has pretty much double digit guys in the playoffs right now, I think you're definitely asserted yourself as an NBA prospect, and we're gonna kind of jump into the tape and break down what makes you appealing and how you kind of, in my eyes, can kind of fit on any team and
Yeah,
impact winning. So kind of the the bullet points, the sales pitch for Cedric Coward, as I'd call it, late bloomer, right? Like you've developed at every single level.
yeah,
You have this, really driven mentality, and you've proven it at every single level along the way. Very blue collar, physical tools, 7'2" wingspan.
sure.
Um, you use that length on defense, using our offense as a slasher, and then we talk about that evolution offensively. I dug into the Division III tape. I dug into the Eastern Washington, the Washington State, and
Mhm.
it's rare you see someone so vividly each year take a leap.
Yeah,
We talked before the season where last year you also entered the draft process and you thought you really improved your handle with Zach Gonzalez out in LA, and I think it showed in those 6 games. Getting
mhm.
to your spots. I know you said some games maybe you'd like to produce a little bit more with your scoring, but
Yeah,
we're kind of going to jump into what makes you special as a prospect, what makes you you. And I
mhm.
think it starts with what you showed at every level is you got a relentless motor, man. Break this one down. I think this is night 1 of the season.
Yeah, this is game one, Portland State. That's Dane. Dane shot a three, top of the key, and our rules for especially me, was an all-time crasher. So no matter what, I was going to get the boards. I like to consider myself an elite rebounder. Um, but really, these are the plays that if you see the score is 29-28. So like if say I don't make this play, they go down and score, we maybe don't have the lead going into halftime because it can affect the run we made. But for me, I saw the ball, and I just told myself I got to go get it, you know. And at the end, you see me just rip it out the dude's hands, and then I found Isaiah on the wing for a three. It's just for me, I've always had a high motor. I've always just been an energetic kid, but that's what separates people because everybody at the level I'm at now can play. Like you don't make it to D1 for no reason, and you definitely don't make it to the league if you can't play. That's just what it is. But the separator is the motor and all the little details to be able to do the dirty work. So for this play, just knowing I was in the corner, I saw the ball go short, and I told myself I got to go get it, and I went and did that, and I ended up getting an assist out of it too. So I was happy.
Another one here. You got the assist on this one. This might have been my favorite play of the year. This is big time. So you're fighting for position, get the post. Walk us through this one. Same thing. 5 point game, 15 seconds left.
Yeah, so I knew it was 15 seconds left, no shot clock. So I knew we had the last shot technically, and for our offense, we were predicated on hunting mismatches. And for me, I can play both perimeter and post. And 24 Ishmael Habib, he was on me, and so I wasn't like trying to fight super low to where I could like trap myself under the basket because I knew they would be sending help, but I wanted to get low enough to where I could, make a quick move and score, or that backside can be open because they're over helping. Uh, Once I caught it, it kind of looks like I'm looking at this action up top, which I was, but I was mainly seeing what that low man was doing. And Nate was wide open, and all I told myself was just make the pass in the pocket. We work on those passes a lot. Uh, and for me, it was just like a routine play in a way. And then he hit it. So, thank you, Nate, for the assist.
He hits the shot. And again, this kind of talk about your identity as a player. You're in
Mhm.
a full court sprint. They push it in transition, and you send it off the backboard. You
Yeah,
think this kind of just encapsulates what you are as a player?
yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of shocked myself with that. Because I took off from so far, and the dude that I blocked, Hayden Curtis, I think he's like 6'10". So I didn't really expect to go get it in terms of like actually block it, but I knew if I jumped, I would give myself a chance. But I really kudos to Portland State. They got the ball out so fast. Like Nate made that shot, and from there, like it was usually I, point to my teammates, have that like half a second and like acknowledge him for making the shot. But as soon as he made the shot, the ball was out. And I like told myself, I was like, oh dang. And so I had to go. I tried to stop the ball, but then he kicked it up to Curtis, and I realized nobody was there. And I was like, okay, so just take that extra effort, make that extra, that extra hustle play to at least try to get a finger on the ball. And, I ended up getting it, and thank God for my 7'2" wingspan because that's what got.
Yeah, showed the 7'2" wingspan there. You jumped from the WCC logo.
Yeah.
Um, I like their honesty. You say, I weren't sure if you were going to even get a touch of the ball.
I knew if I do, I just give myself a chance at least. If he makes it, he makes it. If I didn't get there, I didn't get there. But at the same time, that like you said, that's just my game. Like I'm gonna go get it. Like I don't care if it's LeBron gonna dunk the ball. I'm gonna go try and go get it. If I got a chance, I'm gonna go try and go get it.
Another defense to offense one here against Portland State. Yeah, walk us through this one.
I know. I remember our last conversation. I know you asked me like one thing for me was the focus on defense, especially off the ball. Um, on the ball, I think I'm a pretty good defender because I can use my length. But players have the tendency to drop their arms, which for me, my arms weren't fully out, but uh, just know off the ball having that awareness. And for me, I have really long arms, so I can kind of make it look like somebody's open in a way, and then just making sure I'm anticipating that next pass. And when he threw the ball, it worked out to perfection, And then I ended up just getting in the way, uh, stealing that ball, and then from there it was just a race to the basket, understanding that it was a 3-on-2 situation. Um, I had both of those guys in front of me, and so I had two good options. But when Nate spaced out to that corner, I knew that was the right pass to make. And like I said, when we get the ball, and especially when I get the ball, I like to run, like because transitions if not the most efficient offense, one of the most efficient offenses, especially when I have the ball because I can make all the decisions. I'm either going to go. And most of the time when I have the ball and I'm running down full court, a lot of people load up. They like build that wall. So then it gives opportunities if I'm at least guys are running with me for them shooters to get wide open shots because all I got to do is make the pass.
Definitely. I mean, that's NBA offense, right? And I think that's Duke offense. They had a guy named Cooper Flag who did
Yeah.
a pretty similar thing. All their guys would push it,
Mhm.
space, and really be attentive and aggressive on defense. So we talk
Yeah.
a little bit off the ball, talk about playing in transition. For
Mhm.
you on the ball, like what are the keys for you when you're disruptive on the ball, and where do you think you've progressed the most over the past like season or two?
Using my length is number one, because I'm gonna be guarding both guys same side or three types, guys smaller than me, guys bigger than me, and guys same size, So really utilizing my God given abilities, length, speed, strength, all that stuff. But I think for me, the biggest jump in my defensive ability was anticipation and then foot speed, not making sure I wasn't stuck in mud, especially on the ball because like I'm not guarding Kyrie, I'm not guarding Kyrie or Steph and these guys that are like super, super handle life is best I can say it. But at the same time, you're guarding some good players with really quick first stabs and can get downhill and have, can shoot the lights out and stuff like that. So it was just understanding the scout first of all, but then using length and foot speed and then chesting the ball up. I think as in this clip, you'll see like our scout for here was to go under the ball screens. I could do a much better job getting into his body at first so he doesn't get that low. But at the same time, knowing staying in front of the ball is really just to chest it. And that kind of goes to like what you said with the gambling part. Like there's no reason for me to reach. I'm long enough to where if I just make guys shoot a super tough shot, the percentages drop. And if they make it, you tip your cap to them. I made plenty of shots where, a guy has been there, but I made plenty of shots because I work on that stuff. But if he goes, if I just do my job, stay in front, chest the ball, and then make him shoot a super tough shot, I should be okay. Like I said, I can do a better job probably getting into his body. And then at the end, not letting him get that little sliver of space. But I ended up getting a block. So, it worked out in the end.
Yep, good hands there. This one, Peyton Sanford, one of the most dynamic shooters in college basketball. Past couple seasons, to be honest. I mean, he's been firing, and that Iowa offense is one of the most empowering offenses for a shooter for the past decade.
Yeah.
So, what are the keys for you when you're guarding a shooter like this, especially if
Yeah.
you got to chase him?
Yeah, so Peyton, I actually worked out with Peyton at the Celtics last May, that dude can shoot like no doubt about it, and it's so fast that like a lot of people work on the no dip shot. Like his shot is no dip, like he'll catch it and just fire it, because he's worked on it, and he's one of the elite shooters in college basketball. So for this game, knowing they're going to run him off so many off ball screens, knowing they're going to run him off so many actions, I knew I had to lock in and make sure um, that I stayed attached as much as possible. And then, if I did somehow get clipped, I had to have elite communication. But for this shot, I know he ended up making two. I think the two prior to this one he made one on the left wing that was a catch and shoot, and I beat myself up about it because I should have been there a little closer. And then since he made that one, he made a really tough one coming the other direction. Instead of running right to left, he was running left to right, and he hit a shot like right in my face, and I was like, oh, damn. And you tip your cap. But for this one, I knew just stay attached, make it hard, and if he's gonna let it fly, you better be there. And then, like I said, I have the length to get there, and I just made a pretty good play.
Yeah, it's a good contest. Yeah, he's one of the few in college at that level that can sprint kind of going both shoulders, right?
Hmm.
He's pretty comfortable, and like you said, that release is pretty high. So, talk about being reactive, right? Like getting back. We showed the chase down. I think something that I mean really was impressive this year is you had quite a few kind of like walling up in transition, getting balanced. You think that's one of your like biggest strengths?
It's something I definitely worked on. I block a lot of shots, so That's a good thing. But at the same time, understanding to just sometimes just wall up and chest up and not swipe down, because ultimately that makes the shot so much tougher. You know, like in those three clips you just showed, it was really just me making sure I can at least square my body up to make the layup hard. You know, you didn't want obviously them to just have, a layup and now my body's turned. If they get contacted, most likely is an and one, or at least they're shooting two free throws. So just making sure I was getting back first of all, I was getting back and able to square up, and then just making it as tough as possible. Because like I said, I got 7'2" wingspan, and you got to use it. So for me, walling up and just jumping up and getting my hands up all the way makes it act like you're going over Rudy Gobert, even though you're not. You know what I mean? So I say for me that was something that blocking shots has always been a strength, but really disciplining myself to just at times just wall up. You don't got to go for the block every time. Sometimes just make the shot really tough. And then the last one you showed where I did block the shot, uh, I did get blown by, so that's not like the best guard the ball clip, but it is a clip of what you said, like with effort. Like it's the best effort clip. Like don't let the play go, because there's a lot of guys that would just you know at that point he's making the dunk, and from there on out you know obviously we're up big, but at the same time that gives them momentum, and it kills your momentum. But for me, I'm always going to be the guy that I'm not going to give up on the play no matter what it is. And then hopefully I can make a play.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, going through the film, a lot of guys tried you this year
Yeah.
on the dunks. You always jumped, which I respect. But for
Yeah.
you, someone your size, usually someone with your physical profile is really good off the ball, right? Whether it's deflections or rotating for blocks, walling up in transition, like we showed there. Maybe learning area of growth for some guys, or even just kind of like a struggle is like screen navigation, like we saw here, like maybe getting caught looking at a screen, having like you said, getting caught in the sand. Is that something you've had to work on over the past year or so?
So just having different techniques, different and really defense is a lot of trust. Trusting that the other four guys on the court are going to do their job. I can say in that one, I was in the wrong depth because I was looking for the screen instead of just focused on guarding my guy, which gave him that split second because his offensive players were taught like if the defense looks away, go. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, screen navigation is a huge one. I thought I got a lot better at that throughout the year, and even now, like we work on defense and getting through screens now. In the pre-draft process. And I've gotten so much better at understanding the correct techniques and the correct way to do that, and forcing guys to pretty much like forcing guys to do what you want as a defender. And then, like you said, it was just one of those areas for me that I knew I had to be elite at. And I'm working on it every day because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be guarding, guys from Idaho. I'm going to be guarding Steph Curry and and Edwards and all these guys, in the league. So
Yeah, so I think we kind of summed up everything defensively. I know you're watching these playoff games. What are the areas you think most translate right now? Like if you were checking into an NBA playoff game tonight, and what are some of the areas? I mean, you've always been someone that's extremely transparent, self-aware. What's an area where it's like maybe that's I still got to grow defensively?
yeah, well, you can grow in everything. I can say that. I'm always willing to learn and willing to soak up information because I've never played an NBA game before. So pretty much I know nothing in a way, but at the same time, you take what you can and add it to your arsenal. Especially me as a defender, I take what I can and add it to my arsenal if it helps. Um, I think the biggest thing that translates right now, like if I were to check into a playoff game tonight, would be the motor defensively, like the never giving up on plays, and then also the length and disruptability, just being able to disrupt guys. Um, having that 7'2" length is really disruptive. Like you saw Jaden McDaaniels the whole series really disrupt Luca. Like Luca's gonna get what he gets. Like he's just that good of a player. But as long as you don't make them comfortable in getting that, you're fine. And then I say physicality too. I think I'm not scared as a defender to take it to the offensive guy. Like if I get a foul, I get a foul. You know, that's one. I got in the college game, you got 5, and then NBA, you got 6. But I'm not scared. And obviously, in these playoffs, it's super physical, super physical. They're letting a lot of stuff go that a lot of people would think are fouls, but at the same time, that's I think that would translate. And then obviously, there's different schemes in the game, depending on who you're playing, who you're guarding, and stuff like that. So just understanding rotations and understanding different levels of like, are we doubling this guy? Are we leaving this guy to shoot? Or stuff like that. I think that can be worked on definitely. And then ultimately just guarding your yard because, like you said, you're guarding the best players in the world. They're the best players in the world for a reason. There's like Shea probably will win MVP. A dude that averages 32 points a game, and 30 points a game is hard to average. So just guarding your yard, and there's always areas to grow for me.
And offensively, you shot 40% from three this year. Um, Shot pretty high percentage the year before. Something we talked about before the season. You've continuously, sharpened your axe. Um, I think we have some clips here. Off the dribble, off the move, catch and shoot. You
Mhm.
shot 40 on catch and shoot. You shot 40 off the dribble.
Yeah.
What's going well when you're shooting the ball really well?
Just consistency. I think I really worked super hard on making sure my jump shot was super consistent and making sure all the mechanics of it were consistent because I trust my work. I'd shoot thousands of shots a week, thousands. So understanding to have the confidence is there. I don't care if I miss 6 in a row, 7 in a row, I'm still going to shoot the next one because I trust my body of work that much. But honestly, it's just making sure I'm super consistent. Like I know in the Iowa game, I went, I think 1 for 7 from three, something like that. Like, and I was, obviously upset, but at the same time, like I looked back at the game and I looked at the consistency of my jumpers, and they weren't super consistent. But then I went to Northern Colorado or Eastern Washington, the games where I shot really well. I looked at my jump shots and I was like, oh, well, I landed the same way every time. And if I missed it, I landed probably, a little off balance here. Something like that, where I can really harp into the details of my jump shot and really understand why I missed it. Not just saying, oh, I missed that one. Like, why did you miss it? I think with the body of work I put in and, the people that have helped me fine tune my jump shot to where it can become 40% and hopefully greater, or not even hopefully, I know it'll become greater as time goes on. Um, just making sure you're able to understand those details.
Yeah, the work shows. I think consistency is definitely key. I think this one right here in transition, this is a difficult shot rhythm wise.
Yeah.
You talk about putting the work in with your handle. Is this something you're still working on pre-draft? Like being able to get to your spot, raise up, be going slow to fast, fast to slow, and just rising above?
Yeah, man. I mean, 6'6" with 7'2" wingspan. It's hard for guys to block my shot, but it's also easier for them to defend my shots if I let that happen. For me, and it goes back to that first shot, like when I was running in transition. That's that's honestly a shot that a lot of players probably won't take just because of the situation. Like we're only up 5. It's 12 minutes to go, and it's technically a 2-on-1 situation. Obviously number 5 gets back into play, but for me, I got ultimate confidence in myself. Like, is there a right answer for what could have happened? I mean, probably it might be driving it, get the contact, finishing at the rim, but at the same time, I got ultimate belief in myself to hit that shot, and I work on it every day. It's not a shot where that's the first time I'm taking it. So when I shot that one, I knew it was in once I let it go off my fingers because I knew how consistent my jumper was at that moment, and I did all the right things mechanically.
What do those shooting routines look like right now? And you guys got a pretty talented pre-draft group in the gym every day. Yeah, what's that look like?
Yeah, so pretty much every day we work on not the same things, but it all goes back to the same thing. So especially like catch and shoot, making sure you're always low, always balanced, always holding the follow through. And for me, I have really big hands. So one thing I was taught in this pre-draft was that sometimes I catch the or during the season I was catching the ball like this, and what my coach calls the claw. So pretty much like your hands are like in this claw position, and that makes it easier for you to like mess yourself up because once you catch the ball, your hands might not be in the right place, and it also slows down the speed of your jump shot. He told me that just do it like this: hands open, hands ready, and every time I catch the ball like this, I don't even have to dip it. I just catch it and go up. And it's improved the speed of my jumper. It's improved just the power I have in it. And then it's improved definitely my hands on the ball. Like I don't have to adjust. I rarely have to adjust unless like I catch it without the laces. I gotta get to the laces real quick. Most of the time it's just from my hands in the air. But we do a lot of form shooting to make sure those details are really harped. At 7 o'clock, actually, we got shooting tonight, so we'll harp on those details. And then off the dribble, like I know we're about to get into it. My off the dribble shots have been throughout my college career have been probably the biggest. I don't want to say weakness, but non-strength. And part of it is handle, definitely, because you got to be able to have a handle to keep it in your pocket and it's not way out here, way out here. But also understanding how high and how hard the pound into your pocket has to be. I know, like I keep saying I have really long arms, which is true. I had the tendency to like when I used to take off the dribble threes, like I would dribble and then kind of chase the ball. So I'm catching it really low, and now it's a longer time to get it up here. Meanwhile, if I pound it damn near to my chest, I'm already here, wrist is loaded, and it's going in almost every time. So
Letting it come to you on the
yeah,
shot instead of gotcha.
instead of going to
Yeah,
get it, come to you.
yeah, I think you touched on it. I would agree. Watching your games over the past couple of seasons, I think you're someone that's always been physical, right? You've always had the length. You've been able to leverage your physical tools against a lower level. Break down some of these reads.
Yeah. So one, my setup could have been way better. I say that. As a defender, he kind of knew the screen was coming, so I could have attacked right first and then came off left again. Understanding they were in a hard hedge, I came here, tried to attack the reject, couldn't get around. And so I said, okay, let me reset it, get back to my big, and what we call a hit and chase. So I hit him and chase him. Teams in the league may call it a zoom action. We're working on that too. But hit and chase it and understanding the leverage I had as I was driving to the basket, that he was on my hip instead of, in front of me or behind me. Obviously, if he's behind me, get all the way to the rack. If he was in front of me, probably get a rescreen. But understanding he was on my hip, I work on this one shot all the time. Like the mid range is kind of dying in the game today, but for me, it's really the tool to be a 3 level scorer. So all I knew is I just had to get him off of me and get enough space to where I could rise up. And I think that was just my goal here, giving that Shea Gilgeous bump and then just rise up over
Yeah, two things. First, that with the Shea bump, I've
him.
probably interviewed 200 players in the past 300 days, a
Yeah,
year. Every single player is watching Shea right now. So
yeah, for
mid
sure.
range, I would all the people that say mid range is dead. Turn on a playoff game, right? Like you gotta have the mid range to be a threat. But the second part is I know if I'm an NBA scout, if I'm in an NBA front office and I'm evaluating your growth, I think this clip and the transition three stop and pop are just direct examples, right? Of like you're getting better at your game. These are
Yeah,
things maybe you wouldn't have been comfortable with a couple years ago. Um, but yeah, just right
yeah,
into his chest,
for
tremendous rhythm, letting the ball come right to your hands.
for sure. And a lot of that has to do with comfort. I think, like you said, I played in a lot more ball screens because I was a lot more comfortable. I was a lot more comfortable making the reads. I was a lot more comfortable, coming off. Like in this one's not perfect. I could have had a better setup from the beginning. Obviously I drove, tried to reject. I shouldn't have picked up my dribble, but I did. It happened. But then having the comfort instead of just giving up on it to like I'm gonna hit my big and I'm gonna chase the ball because I want the ball in my hands at that point of time. The minute less than a minute to go. I think this was the dagger shot, pretty much. Like even though they're down 12, they can, I've seen crazier things happen. But this was the dagger shot, and I want the ball in my hands during that time. So for me, like you just said, it was the evolution of my game, really going from that guy who played mainly like a big in D3 to now where I'm a one and a two in the highest level college basketball. So being able to just make these moves and just have the comfort because I know, like you said, I trust my body at work.
Yeah, I've maybe done a bad job as a host providing that type of kind of background. I mean, when we spoke last year, we were looking at the film, and it's like, you were a guy that was sprinting, working for post angles, working for duck ins,
Yeah.
like fundamentals inside out. So to see you kind of evolve like this off the bounce, talk about playing out of zooms in pre-draft. I think we got one here. Kind of work a little pump fake
Mm.
against Portland State.
Yeah, so I don't he wasn't in a drop, but he wasn't in a hard hedge. So
Yeah,
as soon as I came off it, I heard the guy that was chasing me call switch because they tried to switch up the line in a way, but they just jacked up the communication. So I'm hearing switch, 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 and I knew, okay, I'm gonna have the big on me. But I think I hit a three earlier. I don't know when earlier, but I hit a three earlier. And so I knew just show him the pump fake and really selling it as if I was shooting a three and getting it above my head would get him to jump. And then that gave me that little space and time to make sure I can get to my spot, you know. Um, and I ended up getting there. And like I said, as a thing, it's just reps. It's just reps all day. Like you're not taking a shot for the first or 10th time. You're taking a shot for the 10,000th time, you know. And like you said, it's just a comfort thing, making sure you get into your spot. Comfort.
definitely. I just did a film session with Neek, your
Yeah,
friend, doing pre-draft with, and we
yeah,
we had a similar kind of talking point using the eyes. Guys like you with big time length, big time athleticism, the ability to shoot, get downhill. Using the eyes is almost as good as a jump fake sometimes.
yeah. And then like you said, if I didn't have the ability to shoot 40% from three, he's not jumping.
Yep.
Like that goes to scout too.
Another one here. Get in the paint. Look like low gather, little
Yeah,
fade away.
yeah. Getting to the what we call the second box. Kind of the first box, I did get a little lower, but come off the zoom, understand they're switching. Big's too slow, so really attack that hip. I wish I kind of would have took a sharper angle in a way, but it is what it is. I got there, got down low, and that ball fake was really to see if the big was going to commit to me or if he was going to kind of just show. And I feel like as I extended that low, I didn't see him come up anymore. So I said, okay, if you're not going to come up, I'm just going to rise up and shoot it. And, like I said, this is a shot I've repped out many, many times, this same situation. And and now it's just a comfort level just being able to hit it.
Interesting to hear you say that late read. I think it shows could have had maybe a drop off. He bit. This one transition. I think if we had to pick apart your game, like the next steps, you think maybe kind of diversifying your finishing. Using your length, using your body. You think that's maybe the next steps?
Yeah, for sure. I think like I did a good job finishing through the contact here, which is great. I believe. I think one more dribble, really bump them, and that can end in a dunk. You know what I mean? And that's something I'm working on every day. Just and it's gotten better as I've gotten more explosive and more athletic because you now can understand the just way things are done, especially when driving to the basket, because you're going against guys that, like you said, you're meeting physicality. And for me, I did a good job here finishing through the contact. But there's also other clips like that. I don't know if you'll pull them up where I haven't done such a good job finishing through the contact. One, either I'm picking up my dribble too early or I'm not seeking out contact. And I think just seeking out that contact first as an offensive player and then using that athleticism and that explosiveness can definitely diversify the finishes and shit, really less of diversify the finishes, but just end in dunks. You know?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, break this one down.
Yeah, so we're in the Spain action, setting up the Spain action. Um, but technically, what I loved about our team was, like you said, we were so versatile. We had big wings like Lawan, 6'6", 230. So he could act as the four, although he wasn't the four. He was probably the three in this situation, but he can act as the four. And this is a much better setup, I can say. I really led this guy into the screen, although there's a lot of space right there. But that in and out really sold the drive right and allowed me to have that space coming off. And understanding, like, I don't know why they didn't switch here. They should have, but
Early
understand
season woes. Yeah.
understanding that they weren't switching there was like I knew I could get downhill with that space. And I think this one here, just I knew he was on my back. So kind of wanted to use the rim as a shield to protect my jump shot because that dude, Langston Reynolds, he's super athletic. So understanding like he could come and block that shot using the rim as protection to get there is real nice.
Yeah, another one here. It's actually kind of funny. Neat got a lot of heat for a hook in the tournament, similar hook. They don't do a good job of calling it in college, so I like it, to be honest.
They don't if they don't call it, it ain't no foul, right? But
Exactly.
it's just getting by, going baseline, and making sure to play up too. I was kind of behind the basket as I was driving, so I had to like make my way back a little bit to in the middle of the key. And then as soon as I got around the other Sanford, I think that's Price Sanford. I knew it was
Yep.
just Owen Freeman. And then I threw that pump to get him up in the air, and then just had to finish under because I knew if I you go same side, it's probably a block, but you know just finish under.
Definitely. Another area of growth, we kind of talked about the motor's always been there, right? You always
Mhm.
had the physical tools, start developing your shooting, and you play off the shooting with, get into a one dribble pull up, two dribble pull up, playing perimeter to post. Now, I think the next steps is still a process, but I think show flashes this year's, you know, leveraging all those tools and also making reads, right? Taking advantage of defenses with your ability to read the floor. So we'll walk
Yeah,
through a couple of these. We talked early how
yeah,
you really enjoyed, going perimeter to post. Had
yeah.
a lot of assists this season like that.
I can say in the topic of making reads, this play to start out, the read is for me to get the ball and stampede it and get to the rim. Although it ended up working out, that is the perfect closeout situation to where I'm either coming off and I'm shooting it if his hands are down, but just by this kind of wild closeout, his hands are up. I need to be attacking this, probably middle, because just if you just see the angle of which he's closing out, I'll attack middle, get to the rim and dunk it, tear the rim off. But obviously I didn't. And then now you just find the next best play. And when it came to this playmaking, like it was shown in the very first clip, like the pass from the post. It's just trusting your guys, trusting that they're going to get to their spots. And I know Dane is an elite shooter, and I've seen him make plenty of shots all the time. So really, for me, my job was just to get the ball in the shot pocket.
Definitely. This one, getting 2 feet in the paint, jump stop,
Yeah,
little hit back.
yeah, that one just getting to the rim or trying to get to the rim, understanding they got two on me. Um, I kind of hop stepped into it, and because I kind of did drive into a contested gap, but hop stepped into it, seeing Dane's man still under there. I knew my next job was just to spray out to him, find him and spray out to him. Although that shot wasn't in the pocket, Dane's a good enough shooter to he can just catch the ball and just hit it. So that's great.
This highlight had the Cameron crazies going crazy in our comments. You're getting a lot of ambitious pro comps with the pace here, like really good pace, kind of that old school straight to like a Barkley.
Yeah,
Break this one down.
just like you said, coming with pace. Pace is everything. Pace and spacing are everything. And I know if you have the ball, you control the pace. So for me, like I said, I like to run. So as long as I had the ball, I know I control the pace. And it doesn't help walking the ball up. Juan set a step up. They switched it. Understanding I had a smaller guard on me, I immediately took him to the post because although, the game is more perimeter based, like if you see Jalen Brunson has a post game. Like Jalen Brunson is what, 6'3"? You know what I mean?
If that,
Yeah,
yeah,
super effective in the post. against smaller guards, and guards, similar to his size. Even guards bigger than him, honestly. But understanding the pace with that, and then they're forced to double because if they don't double, I'm scoring the ball. If they do double, now I just got to make the read and find the pass. And although I made the pass probably more difficult than it had to be, I ended up making that drop off bounce pass to ND down there, and he did a great job finishing.
I think we got last clip here. You want to walk through this one?
Yeah, so this one got, I don't know. Yeah, I got the rebound, got off the ricochet. And like I said, when you have the ball in your hands, you control the pace. For me, my goal was to get downhill, especially in transition, because I know the paint collapses as I drive. Um, it kind of sucks because I definitely lost the ball there. I was fortunate to get it back, but then immediately there you find sprays. And in this situation, I had multiple guys open. I had Parker open right in front of me. I had Dane open on top of the key, and then obviously Nate's on the backside. I think as I turned around, I just saw Dane first, and my main goal was just get it in his pocket because I know he can shoot that mug. So get in his pocket, and kudos to Dane for giving me my assist.
Definitely. We go through the film. We show the motor, we show the defense, two-way versatility,
Yeah.
evolving offensive game,
Mm-hmm.
continue to improve and be efficient as a shooter. Is there really anything else you think you should highlight about makes Cedric Cedric?
Um, from a skill standpoint, I think just the leadership on the court. I think that's really something that's underrated. Being able to get guys organized. You know, it was showed kind of in one of the clips where it was the Spain action as I got to the rim, really getting guys organized in the correct spots before the play begins. Because although like in the NBA game it's a lot of read and react, if you do run a set play, everybody needs to one know what they're doing and be in the right spots. So for me, I predicate myself on being ultimate talker and communicator and making sure I'm organizing, stuff. And that's definitely something to also still work on, just like every other area of my game. But understanding if you can get guys in the right spots, you control not only the pace, but you control things on the court when you have the ball. That's really huge for me. But ultimately, I think, like you said, going over everything, my main goal is to just show my versatility and show I'm a Swiss Army knife or jack of all trades or whatever term you want to use, but a guy that can do everything.
Definitely. We do this film session, let's say 12 months from now. What's going to be the one biggest thing you think is going to be different to your game on the court?
Yeah, I think it's just to be an elevation of everything. I think as I continue to develop, like where I am now, I won't be in 12 months. I will be so much better. I will be playing live again. Because I'll be good with the shoulder, and I think just I have a better idea of what needs to be elevated more than others because there's stuff I do really well, and now you got to master it, and then there's stuff I don't do so well, and you got to turn those into doing really well, and then eventually master those. But there's not one single thing I can tell you right now. Like this for sure will be better, but I think everything will because naturally, like I said, I'm so willing to learn, and I'm so willing to get better. That's how I got here. I didn't get here by knowing everything. I got here by knowing nothing and just being willing to learn and put in the work to do it. And so 12 months from now, that's not going to change. It's not going to change tomorrow. It's not going to change later in the night when we go shoot. It's just who I am. That's who God made me, and that's who my parents raised me to be. And it's gotten me this far, so it's going to take me farther.
We talked in the past, you like watching Kawhi,
Yeah.
Shea Gill, just like everyone, Kobe. Are there any other players that stick out to you now you like to watch, take little things of?
Cade Cunningham. Cade, man, that's
Mm,
tough. I've seen him since Montverde, but I never really I never really studied his game because he's on the Pistons. The Pistons just weren't that good. But now that the Pistons are better, like obviously the better the team is, the more you're going to watch them. But I've really studied Cade Cunningham and how, like I said, he controls the game. Like he's six, 6'6", 6'7", bigger body, and that's what the game is now. Bigger guards. Like and being able to control the game and punish mismatches, punish guys smaller, and punish guys bigger with speed and ability to shoot and do everything. So Cade Cunningham is probably the biggest add-on to what I've seen, and then um, this whole like Lakers series, I actually, although I hated seeing the Lakers lose, I love watching Jaden McDaaniels just disrupt everybody he played. Like he was the typical 3 and D stereotype, but I don't know what if it was game one or game three, he had 30 points because he showed like, although I'm this stereotypical 3 and D guy, like I can do more. And I think that's like a journey he has that a lot of people can follow, especially myself, like a guy that will go into the league you seen as like 3 and D just because that's the frame and body work I have, but then has the ability to do more and become a more premier player, become that Cade Cunningham type of guy.
100%. I always tell players, a guy like that, he came into the league so young, right? Like he was gangly, young, so raw, and he's just like you said, had a growth mindset and was able to take advantage of what he was given and slightly evolve. Guys like Aaron Wiggins for the Thunder,
Yeah.
Jalen Williams, all those guys kind of just they started really slow and they just took everything they could and get better and better. Najee Marshall isn't in the playoffs this year, but he was one that stood out in previous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys like, and from what I've noticed in this playoffs, nobody is scared of anybody, and that's how it's supposed to be. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's scared of anybody. Like besides the 1 through 8, the 1 and 8, the Cavs and Heat, and then the Thunder and Memphis series, every other series has been entertaining, like to the full extent, and that's how. Like if you kind of go last year, this playoffs this year is blowing the one that had the water last year. So that's great, and it's great to study that too. It's great to study the guys that have evolved their games from year to year. It's great to study the teams that have evolved from year to year, and just to see each one of these games become technically just a war. That you love to watch, and then for me, I want to be a part of that. So.
Definitely, Cedric. I think we painted the picture pretty well. If you're interested in hearing the full journey from you know California to Willamette to Eastern Washington, Washington State, I'll link the previous interview above. But Cedric, I appreciate your time, and I'm wishing you the best through getting fully healthy, and then wherever the next steps may be for you and your journey.
Hey, Jacob, it's always a pleasure talking to you, my man. Thank you.